right. I would like to call to order today's Jefferson Elementary School District meeting, March 24, 2021 at 7:01 p.m. Thank you everybody for being here. Could I ask Ms. Kovarai for members present, please?
Jason Fu.
Here.
Marie Brizuela is absent. Andrea Jordan.
Here.
Manufo Leah Inga Anawai.
Here.
Maybell Manio.
Here. Awesome. And now we will actually do our Pledge of Allegiance. Dr. Joyner will display the flag. And if Mr. Valenti, would you like to lead us, please?
Sure, no problem.
Great, thank you.
I'm going to rise. Please rise. Put your hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, Mr. Valenti. And on to item 4, governance team meeting guidelines. At this time, the governance team members will review the governance team meeting guidelines. Great, and moving on to item 5, the approval of the agenda. At this time, I just want to remind everybody participating to mute their microphones if they are not speaking to preserve video quality. If we find that you're not unmuting, then the host may periodically mute participants to remove background noise. But if there is no discussion about the agenda, I'll take a motion to approve it.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Great, thank you very much. On to number 6, public hearings. Item A, public hearing for 2021-2022 CSCA Chapter 233 contract renewal proposal. Public hearing will be held to receive public input on the CSCA Chapter 233 contract renewal proposal for the 2021-2022 school year. CSCA is proposing to open negotiations on Article 5, wages, Article 6, health and welfare, and Article 8, hours and conditions of employment. Are there any public comments?
We do not have any comments for this nor the next item.
Okay. Any discussion? No? Okay, then I would like to close the hearing for item A and open the hearing for item B, public hearing for Jefferson Elementary School District's counter proposal to CSCA Chapter 233. A public hearing will be held to receive public input on the Jefferson Elementary School District's counter proposal to the CSCA Chapter 233 for the 2021-2022 school year. JESD is proposing to open negotiations on Article 5, wages, Article 6, health and welfare, and Article 14, grievance procedure. There's no comments, as Superintendent Vidal has mentioned. Is there any discussion? No? Okay, I'll close that hearing at 7:04 p.m. Move on to 6A, board member acknowledgements and commendations. Gonna go alphabetically by first name. Trustee Jordan, would you like to start off?
Sure. I just wanted to welcome everyone to the evening. Looking forward to this meeting. It has been somewhat of a rough couple of weeks, I think, or days with all the things that are happening in our country. And so I just wanted to take a moment and acknowledge that I stand with the API community. I gun violence and all the things that are happening in our nation is super unfortunate. And I think that we as a community need to band together regardless of our ethnicities, and really truly just be kind to one another, ask people how they're doing, check in on your friends and family, because we are a nation that is truly in turmoil and is trying to heal. And it's hard to heal when you know, you turn on the news and all you see is unfortunately violence and chaos. So take the time for yourself, take a breather, take some time away from social media and the news if you can, and truly take care of yourself.
Thank you, Trustee Jordan. Trustee Koo, would you like to go next, please?
Sure. Thanks. I want to commend a couple of things. One, I wanted to commend and acknowledge Dr. Joyner and everybody at the PIAC meeting last week. It's a small, mighty group, but it was a great conversation regarding some of the LCAP goals 4 and 5, and just understanding a lot of their concerns and sort of how best we can adapt our LCAP to sort of reflect more specific kind of community concerns. So I really appreciate those kind of conversations and look forward to seeing the final LCAP as it comes to the board. Also, similar to what Trustee Jordan said, I just also want to acknowledge the events of last week. I know it's been a very tough time. I think especially for a lot of Asian Americans across this country, me, myself included, to just sort of kind of understand all this violence and at times uncalled for violence across Asian Americans across this country. So I just want to extend my condolences to everybody who's been impacted with it, but also know that us as a community, we can come together much stronger than ever. I attended the Daly City Stop AAPI Hate rally at City Hall. There were at least about 150, 200 people there. And it was great to just see our community come together to stand up against hate and violence, regardless of what race you are, what gender you are. So I know that as a board, we're committed to doing the work of making sure that everybody has a equal voice, as well as sort of indiscrimination in our community. So look forward to doing that important work, even if it's locally, across the state or across the country, to get that work done.
Great, thank you so much, Trustee Koo. Trustee Naina Anawai.
Yeah, I'm right there along with all of you. I've taken your advice, Trustee Jordan. I've unplugged. I just cannot watch the news anymore and or be on social media. I've even unsubscribed to some of the news alerts because it's just overwhelming to see the loss on top of all the loss that many are suffering during this pandemic. It's so overwhelming to see all of these hate crimes, senseless, heinous crimes against our neighbors, against citizens in the communities that we live in throughout this country. And I think all we can do as community advocates, as community members, is be the best representation and model that we can be to basically allow others to be aware of what it looks like to support one another despite our differences. It's just unacceptable. And it's really sad. I just wanted to also just continue to celebrate the wonderful women in our community as we close out this historic month. Despite the challenges and trying times that we're in, there's still so much great work and the heroes that are being celebrated throughout our community. So I continue to lift up the great women that have come before us and that we are privileged to serve with. So may we finish this month strong in honor of all of the great and wonderful women that I'm proud to say I know and I'm proud to learn from. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And I also agree with my fellow board members about the sentiments, especially around the gun violence that's been happening and around my community, AAPI. And I wanted to point out that we have 3 AAPI members here on this board. So I want to give a big kudos to our district for being so inclusionary and so diverse. And also, I don't know if, since we're all unplugging, trying to unplug, Rob Bonta was also nominated as California AG, who is part of the AAPI community, and I hope he does great things for that. He's actually the first Filipino American, and I believe that I might also be the first Filipino American on this board. And considering that Daly City is more than half AAPI population, all of us together, I think that's extremely key for us to have people that represent our community in these power positions and political positions. I do also want to state some more positive things. I want to give a big shout out to all 3 of the middle school principals for distributing the video that they did for our families. Very informative, very reassuring. Special shout out to Principal Passero, who will be meeting Ben Franklin's students for the first time. And of course, you know, it's close to me too, because my kid goes there. So go Falcons with that. And I just also want to wish everybody a happy spring, and let's spring forward. It's a good time to start anew and fresh and grab onto all these opportunities coming our way. With that said, we'll move on to superintendent comments. Superintendent Vidales.
Thank you, President Manio. So since last time that we met, we had submitted our return to in-person learning plan to San Mateo County Health. Since that time, it has been reviewed and approved. So the epidemiologists and others in San Mateo County Health that reviewing our plan felt that we had elements in place that would support a safe return to school. Second piece is that this week, many of our staff members and into next week will be starting to receive their second dose. And I don't know if Krispy Kreme knew that when they made their announcement, but starting Monday, I'm sure we'll see many staff members lined up outside their store getting their free donut. So those of you that don't know, Krispy Kreme, along with many other local restaurants, are offering free items to anybody who shows up with their double vaccinated card or a fully vaccinated card if they took the Johnson & Johnson. So that's sort of a nice perk that some people will be taking advantage of. And just as others have shared, you know, I too have been overwhelmed by just the senseless loss of life that we've seen over the last 7 to 10 days, and the acts of violence against members of our dearly beloved community. And I'm just reminded the very heartfelt words that Trustee Yang Anoa'i shared with us at the last meeting. You know, like every day we need to cherish every day, because we don't know how long we will, you know, we will get another day. And I do try to keep those words at front of mind, you know, as I interact with the people I love and the people I care for and the people I work with, that every day is a gift and I need to accept and receive it. And so thank you, Ms. Liang Anoa'i, for those words. I do hope to live by them regularly. And then connected to that, I just want to remind members of the public and as well as members of the board that the board will be beginning their equity network work as a board next Thursday evening at 6:30. The meeting connection and access information will be sent out next week. So stay tuned to that. It's a very powerful work, and it would be interesting to engage in this work in the context of all that has been experienced in the last 12 months. And so I look forward to the leadership that this board will provide as a board to our district and to our community as well.
President Manio, I'm sorry, I apologize. I had one more mention, if that's okay.
Sure.
The Chinese hospital, the Pacific Islander community through Supervisor Canepa was able to partner to allow for them to be seen and receive vaccines. And it isn't just for our San Mateo County residents. Because the Chinese hospital has a site in San Francisco, they also extended that offer to San Francisco residents. If you fall within the guidelines that are, or the categories that are offered at this time. But what I wanted to mention is that it is Monday through Friday from 9 to 3 every single day, which is very rare to have a site offer vaccines throughout the week. So I think that as we have access to many networks, to be able to share that with our residents and our neighbors, that if they are interested in getting vaccinated, their first or their second dose, they can do that at the Chinese hospital right there on Gellert Boulevard. Secondly, I was really proud to be able to represent our community, various communities and hats that I wear during public comment on behalf of State Superintendent Thurman, asking to speak regarding ethnic studies. And what I promoted during that time is, one, my day job, that we already do a dose of ethnic studies in pre-K, but that we are also entering into that with our conversations of ethnic studies, and just reminding folks, as we are sitting in a lot of this hate and loss, that ethnic studies is an opportunity for us to learn more about our communities and bringing our communities into our classrooms. This allows us to combat and eradicate the hate that we are seeing. And that's my humble opinion. So I was very proud to share that JESD, again, is a trendsetter in San Mateo County, that we are at the forefront, just like we were with Youth Cinema, just as we are with Workforce Housing Project. These are things to be celebrated outside of everything else that is challenging that we face as board trustees and in the community. So thank you for allowing me to share that.
Thank you, Trustee Elena Anawai, for representing JESD and our initiatives here with the public and Superintendent Thurman. It's great that we are keeping the momentum going and the fire lit with that, especially during these times. Thank you as well, Superintendent Vidales, for your comments. I'm going to move on to item 8A, consent agenda.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second the motion.
I have a first and a second. All those say aye.
Aye.
Perfect. Thank you. That was unanimous. So we'll move on to 8C, Resolution 2103-24, Classified Administrative Professionals Day. The administration recommends adoption of Resolution 21-03-24, designating April 21, 2021 as the Classified Administrative Professionals Day. Do we have any?
Yeah, so let me just get a little background on this. This is a day that's set aside every year where departments and schools can honor their administrative professionals. Used to be called Secretary's Day, is now called Administrative Professionals Day. These individuals sit in the front offices and serve as a triage for all of the different concerns that come into a school site or a department. And while we appreciate them every day, we do set aside one day that communities can come around and express their appreciation. So this year it's April 21st. It is the day of our next board meeting, and we figured that was too late. So we would like to declare it today so that people can prepare for that day.
Thank you. Any discussion?
I would like to make the motion to approve this recommendation, but also extend my deepest gratitude to all of our administrative professional staff that really are at the core of our district. As we know, they serve as the glue and don't always get the many thanks that they really should be receiving from many of us, because they really are behind the scenes keeping things flowing. So I'm very grateful for all of their service to our district and our communities. And if there is no further discussion or comments, I would love to make the motion to do as the administration has recommended, to adopt the resolution number 21-03-24, designating April 21st as Classified Administrative Professionals Day.
I second that motion.
Awesome. I have a motion and a second. Can all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
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 Like that was
I think,
unanimous.
well, it is unanimous, but as a resolution, we do have a practice of doing
Got it.
a roll call vote. So is Ms. Varai, would you mind calling that, please?
Mr. Koo,
Aye.
Miss Jordan,
Aye.
Miss Leah Inga Anawai,
I,
Miss Manio.
Aye. Now it's unanimous. Great. Thank you, Ms. Kovarai, one of our many administrative professionals that we cannot do without, absolutely for sure. And item 8D, return to in-person learning update. Members of the governing board will review most recent health data and other information and discuss implications for updating return to in-person learning plans and setting a date to initiate the hybrid program. Mr. Valenti, or?
No, I will do this one.
Okay.
So I'm going to share my screen with you here. Let's see if we could get this started. All right, so, 2 weeks ago, there was a request to keep this item as a recurring item for the time being. And so this is our first update to the update that was produced last time. The first thing I want to do is, let's see, I can't seem to get it to advance here. Huh, it worked before. Oh, there it goes. All right, so we had this slide last time, but there have been some changes since the last time we met. The first change you'll see here under the daily adjusted cases column, you notice that the 7 has been struck out in both the widespread and substantial rows. And that's because in California, the governor and his health team have decided that as soon as certain benchmarks are hit with vaccination, in particular vaccination in some of the poorer communities of California, that the metrics that were established back in August could be loosened a little because there's greater percentage of the population that's been vaccinated. And so now the purple level, the widespread level is more than 10 adjusted cases, daily adjusted cases being identified per 100,000 in the population. And so that impacts directly the substantial level, the red tier, which is now instead of 4 to 7 daily new cases per 100,000 is now 4 through 10. That didn't really impact San Mateo County. San Mateo County was already in the red when this change was brought about and is currently now in the orange tier with, you look over to the right, our adjusted case rate is 2.2. It's down from 3 last time we met, making good progress in San Mateo County. Our positivity rate is now 0.9%. It's under 1% of all the tests that are administered in San Mateo County are coming back as positive. I don't know if you can remember, but there was a time back in December or so when it was over 15%, I think. So really good progress there in terms of getting the virus under control and stopping the transmission. Last time we met, it was 1.2. It was a great number there, but it's even better as of yesterday. And then the last column is the health equity index. And this is, again, the positivity rate, but positivity rate in some of the more under-resourced census tracts of San Mateo County. And it is 1.8%. It's the first time that the health equity index has dipped into what would be otherwise the minimal yellow tier, which is excellent news. I know San Mateo County has really worked diligently to test our communities, our under-resourced communities, and provide testing opportunities, and now is gearing up to provide more vaccination opportunities in some of our more under-resourced communities, and all of that impacts the greater health of the whole county. And this is one of those times where you can see when one boat rises, all boats rise. And the health equity index actually gets to be a leading indicator and gets to support San Mateo County moving toward the minimal, the yellow tier. And so in the next few weeks, we could probably expect San Mateo County to enter the yellow tier. And San Francisco County is just right behind San Mateo County by a week. They have excellent data as well. I did want to correct some information that was shared at the last meeting. I don't know if you remember, there was a little bit of confusion about when districts would start needing to account for a penalty if they're not back. We looked at it and it is April 1st. So the April 15th date was in the bill proposal when it came out, but through negotiations and the bill that was actually enacted had it as April 1st. What I just wanted to underscore here is that this is money. It's not extra money. We're not getting extra money. This is money that belongs to us and should be coming to us as a school district. It's money that we use to pay our bills and money that we use to pay our salaries and pay all the things that we do. And districts that are not able to open up will have to be able to do without that money. So there's a lot of conversation about, being a bribe or being an incentive. It's not really an incentive or bribe. It's more, you get penalized if you don't do certain things. And we can barely do what we need to do now with what we get. And to think of getting less would be really difficult for everybody, including all the way down into the classroom.
And if I may add, these funds are part of next year's budget, just approved early.
Yeah. Okay. So at this point, with the tentative agreement that we've reached with our teachers union and that has been approved by their leadership, we do expect our qualifying grade levels to be back by April 19th, which is a 7% penalty. For us, it's better than a 30% penalty. Again, losing 7% of these funds is not easy, but it is something that we will attempt to work with and hopefully not impact our operations too drastically. So the steps last time that I went over that we were taking or were being taken, again, as I mentioned earlier, our plan was submitted to San Mateo County Health for review. It was approved. It was identified as a plan that would support a safe return to school and keep our communities and our schools safe. We have the right protocols in place. The vaccination process, as I mentioned again, most staff are receiving their second dose in the coming days or even weeks. And there is a sense of relief there. And we continue to encourage our community to please get any vulnerable adults in your family or your circle of friends, help them get vaccinated. And I think the Chinese hospital option is a great option. It's right in Daly City. It's right on Gellert and I believe Hickey on that corner where the old Sizzlers was. And it would be a wonderful option for many of our community members. So please look into that. Ms. Leon, is that something that they have to make an appointment for, or is it a drop-in?
No, it's a walk-up.
It's a walk-up. Okay.
It's a walk-up. That's
So
why it's wonderful that it's accessible. I hope we
Yeah,
can all take
even
advantage.
better, because sometimes making the appointments is a hurdle and a barrier for many because it's hard to do.
And it was a hurdle. It was a hurdle. So I had actually encouraged folks to just not do the appointment. They did try to figure it out on site for several days and it became a little bit chaotic. So I do encourage folks to get there early. I will say that the staff there has done a wonderful job. That line moves. And I was told that even in the afternoon, no one was standing in the line more than an hour, but that's when the line got heavy. Other than that, you get through that line pretty quickly, which was was pretty impressive.
Well, that's great to know, because I know if you're trying to book an online appointment, it takes you longer than an hour. So if you can stand in line for an hour physically or stand at your computer for 3 or 4 hours, I would choose standing physically in line. Thank you for that. The other step that was being taken last time we met was seeking to achieve and reach agreement with our employee groups. And I'm happy to say, and it's actually the next item on the agenda, that a tentative agreement was reached based on the direction that the board has provided us to begin to bring back our students to in-person learning and create a school environment that's closer to what we know. It is not what we know as school. We are not back to normal, but it does provide more opportunities to be to support our students in person versus virtually. The last thing here is action. The board does need to take action to approve some amendments to the reopening plan that was approved by the San Mateo County Health. I'll go over what those changes are, but they are basically the cadence of return of our student groups when they come in and come back, the conditions of return. Our plan was approved to return in the yellow tier, but at this point, we're saying that we'd be returning in the orange or yellow tier, which I think both of those changes should be received well by our health department and not put us in danger of not being approved. And then the next thing that needs to be approved is our tentative agreement, which is the next item, and Mr. Valenti will speak to that next item, but it does identify the staggered return dates by grade, beginning on April 12th and completed by April 26th, while the county's in orange or yellow, as I mentioned. And it does include some modification of instructional schedules to allow for more in-person instruction for students that are not in school on a given day. At least in the elementary school, there's some time every afternoon for teachers to check in with kids who are at home and provide some review and some check-in and community building time. And of course, it includes many agreements on safety precautions and staff return expectations. But we'll go over those in the tentative agreement in the next item. I just would like to say that the tentative agreement is not a unilateral decision. The district did not set all of this criteria and all of these dates unilaterally. Again, the process is called negotiation because there is a give and a take from both sides, and there was a lot of that until there was an agreement that was reached by both sides, and both sides were able to move forward with it. And again, for the board to remember those sessions and closed sessions that when you provided administration direction in terms of what the parameters were, we believe that the agreement does fit within those parameters. So just to review, the amendments that are needed to our return to school plan and that I will ask for you to approve here after public comment are modifying the health conditions of return, specifying San Mateo County should be an orange or the yellow tier, modifying the cadence of students group return with one group of students, TK through 2 and 6th grade, returning the week of April 12th, and a second group of students, grades 3 through 5 and 7, returning the week of April 19th, and our 8th grade students returning the week of April 26th. There's also a distance learning Wednesday, and that is not really part of the schedule changes that San Mateo County Health really is concerned with. But it is a change in our practice. Our Wednesdays used to be small group intervention Wednesdays. And now it's another opportunity for all students to receive instruction from their teacher on Wednesdays. So there were no other changes to the plan, and we will submit this. And we've been told it's a 3 to 4 day review and approval process from the time that it was submitted, and we intend to submit tonight. I do think we have some comments, so I don't know, Ms. Manio, if you want to take the comments now or if you want board discussion to happen first and questions.
I think we should take the comments now so that the board may comment on them or anything else if they want to.
Okay, so Ms. Jordan and Mr. Koo, you both have that, the sheet, if you want to just take turns. I think there's a couple.
Ms. Jordan, would you like to go first or I can go first?
Please go first.
Okay, cool, no problem. The first speaker I have is Bob Y, a concerned parent. The comment is, I'm very happy and pleased with how much work and time teachers have put into each and every day of distance learning. I have 3 young children currently attending schools in the JESD district. They have a schedule now, and I feel like returning to in-person learning for a little less than 2 months is a risk for many. I myself have not had the opportunity to even be offered the vaccine shot, and you're making me choose to send my kids and risk my own safety or lose the distance learning schedule that most of us have grown used to and force them to independent study. I would also like to know if teachers were even asked what they prefer, because it seems like they have no say, and it's them who are being the most affected by this.
And we also have another comment from Jeanette C., a parent. She's saying that I would like to express concerns about the sudden reopening of schools, especially right after spring break, when many people will most likely be traveling or engaging in other activities. It baffles me that once money is dangled in front of people's faces, it suddenly becomes an option to risk the health of families as well as your own staff members.
Next speaker is Chris Smith, parent. I must not be the only person to feel like the district is being pushed open for the money. If this is so, I would like to know where this money is going, because I don't feel like each school is given equal budgets. For example, Thomas R. Policita, the campus, is beautiful, newly fully equipped, yet my kids who attend both Daniel Webster and Tobias could use more funds for the office or nurse areas like bulletin boards or examination tables, pads.
Next speaker is Alan Tom, parent. Social distancing is possible at certain schools, but some school classes are much smaller than others. As a parent, I am extremely worried about safety. I asked our school about clear partitions for desks, but they said the district refused that request. I would like to know and see how much budget is allowed per school, because it seems like each school has to jump through hoops to get certain school necessities.
Next speaker is Brenda Loza. The comment is, well, I think there might be cut off because it just says the comment is about return to school and day and time. So I think that's the comment submitted, but I don't mind saying the next one as well too, since it's so short. Next speaker is Barbara Issip, kindergarten teacher at Woodrow Wilson School. Dear Jefferson Elementary School Board members, my name is Barbara Issip, a kindergarten teacher of 20 years at Woodrow Wilson School. I'm not only a proud JESD teacher, but I'm also a proud Daly City resident as well. I'd like to thank and commend the board for your continued effort in keeping students, family, teachers, and staff of JESD safe during this pandemic by allowing us to teach and learn from home. I'm confident you all will continue to keep safety at the forefront before taking any action tonight on the proposed return to in-person instruction date of Monday, April 12th. We're now beginning to see light at the end of this pandemic tunnel with vaccination now available to all educators. We are not quite there yet, but getting very close. I am ready to kindly ask the board to please reconsider pushing back the proposed start date of April 12th for return to in-person learning to a future date. Schools are scrambling as we speak with all hands on deck trying to get schools safely ready by April 12th. While there have been districts and school site return to school meetings via Zoom since summer, trying to prepare for the big day of teaching students in person, teachers were and are also simultaneously teaching, prepping, and planning for distance learning, not to mention attending countless PDs, staff meetings, committee meetings, and more. Since the possible date of an April 12th reopening was just announced to teachers last Thursday via email, teachers have been coming in after working a whole day to prepare classrooms for social distancing, planning for hybrid instructions, ordering materials, all before spring break starts. Another reason to please reconsider pushing back the reopening date is that April 12th is the first day after spring break. Please keep in consideration to families that they may be traveling during this time and may need to quarantine, especially with the new variant that is upon us as well. In the end, we all want to return to in-person instruction when it's safe and when all teachers and schools are safely and fully prepared. Other fellow school districts have later reopening dates as well to help ensure enough time for a safe return. Please consider pushing back the date to give us more time to prepare and not to work through our spring break.
The next speaker is Sophie, and apologies, the last name is a bit hard for me. So I'm gonna say Sophie T, second grade teacher. Apologies, I have my dogs in the background. So, dear JESD members, board members, my name is Sophie T, and I have been a second grade teacher at Woodrow Wilson for the past 29 years. I would like first to thank you for ongoing efforts to keep the staff and students of the JESD safe during the pandemic. Your conscious and cautious decisions have been truly appreciated. I would like to ask if you would kindly reconsider postponing, and apologies, one second, my dogs are really barking. Apologies, I'm back. The fact that many of our families will be traveling during spring break has many of our staff members feeling uneasy and anxious about the April 12th reopening date. Teachers have been overwhelmed trying to prepare their classrooms for safe reopening while teaching and preparing for distance learning at the same time. I understand and know the monetary/financial incentive has enticed many districts. However, I'm hoping that you will continue to uphold your commitment to the safety of the JESD community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Mr. Vidales, there are a couple more comments I see here that are marked for 13A, but they appear to be on this topic. Should we just go ahead and read those comments if it's related?
If they are on this topic, yes, go ahead and read them now. If they're for something else, then we'll wait.
It looks like it's about return to in-person learning, so I think it's close enough, yeah. Next comment here is from Miranda Corral, teacher. Comment is, dear board members, the return to in-person learning for TK2 is set for April 12th, the Monday directly after spring break. We've been given only 2 Wednesdays to prepare for students to return to school. I'd like to ask to push the return to in-person learning date to at least Thursday, April 15th to give TK2 teachers a few days after spring break to prepare for students. This extended date will allow for more time to prepare our classroom for students to return to school safely. Thank you.
The next speaker is Faye, and I'm also gonna mess this name up as well. Faye Baltazar. She's a school administrative assistant. She's saying, I am asking the board to reconsider reopening the schools the Monday after spring break. As a parent and staff member, I feel like all of us were blindsided by the district's email stating an opening date of April 12th. Staff as well as families need time to prepare for returning to school and for us to open right after spring break, when people will most likely be traveling or gathering, puts everyone's health more at risk than it should be.
Next comment is just AC, teacher and parent. And the comment is, dear board members, I was surprised that the return for lower grades was immediately after spring break. I had the impression that teachers would have time to prepare and plan for in-person return. Spring break is a much needed rest period for full-time teachers. Distance learning has been draining, more so than during a normal school year. Were we expected to work through our break? Kindergartners who have never been in a school setting do not simply transition over a weekend. I honestly hope that the board would have considered returning when we were 3 weeks into yellow for the safety and health of our community. Please consider pushing back the start date for K2 for April 19th or later so that we can have a full week to truly plan. A few Wednesdays are not enough. I spend all week working on lesson plans and creating asynchronous assignments. How can I possibly prepare for in-person learning or on a hybrid schedule on top of preparing my lessons in such short notice? Thank you for your time and consideration.
The next speaker is an elementary school teacher. It absolutely breaks my heart that we have to punish those that choose their safety and health before all else. My heart goes out to those that are continuing to stay home. You can say that all families / parents had a choice to be a part of either hybrid versus the or VS from the beginning. While that may be true, everyone in our community has gone through so much this past year, and things change. Many have been directly affected by COVID, and many have lost friends and relatives. At this point in time, I feel like teachers are not being set up for success. I already feel like I'm not doing enough for my kids, but there is little I can do to change that because I am so exhausted and mentally drained. The spring break that was meant for me to just decompress and de-stress is not an option anymore because we have to scramble to get ready to open the school up. Could you really not give us any more time or resources or PPE? Is money really more important than our well-being? For those of you that are making executive decisions, do you share any of the same concerns as the educators that are in our district? And that is the last comment.
Thank you, Trustee Jordan and Trustee Koo for dictating the comments for us. Do any of the board members have any questions? Well, actually, if it's okay, I just have one quick one. Did we come up with the alternative for the families that signed up for hybrid, but are apprehensive about going back and would like to switch to full virtual?
Mr. Valenti, do you want to share a bit about the conversations around that option?
Sure. Yes, that's been a question that we've been considering the whole time. And right now, I mean, part of the negotiating process that came up, and right now we're able to offer those families who signed up for the hybrid is going to be time in the afternoon. It'll be mostly asynchronous work during the day. And then in the afternoon, they'll have an opportunity to meet with their teachers to work 4 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. Wednesdays will be a virtual day. So students that are not coming back to the in-person will also have a full Wednesday of instruction. Excuse me. It's the time that they'll have that contact with their teacher depends on the grade level they're in. In kindergarten, it goes for an hour. Then by first through third, it's to 50 minutes. Fourth and fifth, it's 45 minutes, and that's a daily contact. Middle school, they are just going to be checking in at the end of the day with their advisory teachers, but also be able to see their teachers in a synchronous Wednesday. We do recognize that it is a decrease in face time with the staff, but are looking at the schedules that we've been working on and through the negotiating process, this is what we've arrived at. And that's where we are. So we do understand it is a decrease in time.
And do we have what our capacity is to take on new students into that mode?
Well, right now, all the schools, since we finished our agreement, have been reaching out to their families, checking in to make sure they're coming back or they're not coming back. And they've been, again, offering these options. We're highly encouraging families that signed up for the hybrid program to return. We're very confident in the program, but we also understand families that are not comfortable with that have to have an option. But at this time, our resources are really focused on those families that are returning to in-person. We don't have from this point, the staff to handle a third program for those families that can't return. On a case-by-case basis, we are meeting with families. We do understand there's individual situations, but right now that is the baseline program for families that are not returning to in-person. And then a few weeks after we move forward, we get all the TK through 8 students in. We hope to be able to bring in and those other students who perhaps are not as comfortable to return to the in-person program. We don't really have much space in the virtual school, plus the virtual school, it's a whole other platform that would need, you can't really just drop into it. So it's kind of it's been difficult, and I believe some teachers will be working more with those students that are not coming in, just like they'll be working with the students who are at home for that day. But that is what we're offering to families right now.
Thank you, Mr. Valenti.
No,
I
thank you.
have a lot of other questions and comments, but I'm going to give it to my fellow board members
Okay,
that want to discuss.
if there's any questions more, I can answer as well.
I have a comment. Thank you for the presentation. I don't know if this is a question for this item or the next item. I know there's been comments about restarting on April 12th or April 19th. And I was wondering if you would be able to share sort of how that date came about. Was it just sort of like after spring break, or was it sort of more of a negotiating back and forth? Or I don't know if that's something for the next item.
Yeah, it's probably more for the next item, but yeah, it's related to this one, and it definitely was a negotiation. It was a back and forth. Both sides agreed to that date, and the leadership of the teachers union came back unanimously approving that. So, you know, it is certainly, I think, something that is felt more by our younger elementary school teachers. But you know, it was definitely a negotiation. It wasn't just decided on unilaterally, one side or the other. It was back and forth.
Thank you.
Any comments from or questions from the other board members?
I don't have questions. I want to comment that I know that outside of the comments that we've received publicly, many other parents have passionately written to many of us individually and or conveyed their feelings and their concerns to board trustees as well as our administrators. I'm sure of this. It's difficult. This decision isn't easy, and just wanting to share comments that I appreciate all of the efforts that everyone has really provided in ensuring that we are at a starting point to really look at how we can reopen. I know at our last meeting, we did discuss, I do recall us talking about if we were to decide, and when we do decide, tonight being a decision that we have to put forth, is that we actually know that while we make a decision, you know, just like the pandemic, things can happen that will actually force us to come back to the drawing board. While we want to look at it as a concrete plan, we know that this is a fluid process. And I want to share that publicly for transparency, because I know that people have been like, well, what's going to happen if something changes? I foresee that if something changes, we're going to pivot like we've been pivoting. We don't have control of the circumstances that, you know, happen in the environment that we are in right now. But I do want to say that I do feel a decision has to be made. I'm grateful that we've come to hear that there has been a consensus and a unanimous decision made by our teachers union. It took a while for us to get that. And it is not just about the teachers, it is about all of our community. And every voice matters. We can't speak to all of the public comment that we've received tonight, but I do want people to know that it's not fallen on deaf ears. We make our decisions as individuals, but we stand together as a collective voice, making the absolute best decision that we can make at this time with the information and data that we are given. And I just want to share that because I know that that's what I've seen in each of my colleagues here on the board and the information that we've received and the commitment from our administrators. So I do hope that we can make a sound decision based on what we are receiving this evening.
Thank you. Thank you, Trustee Leina Anawai. I just wanted to ask actually if, like, what are, if any, the implications to start on the Wednesday instead of the Monday and have that only be the only short week, staggered week. Everybody else starts the following Monday, as mentioned, but what are there any implications if we start, because we don't start to lose, we keep losing money until the last grade.
Yeah,
Go.
so the only, yeah, you're correct. It's not impacting finances at all. It is a negotiated date. And we've negotiated and agreed to April 12th. I would hate to go back to negotiate again. It does open up, potentially other things that may have come up. So I think, in terms of good faith bargaining, the board did provide direction to administration to represent the district's position. And we feel like this agreement fell within that. It's actually the next item. They're related. So I would just say that, I don't know, Mr. Valenti, you're more familiar with the bargaining and
Yeah, I
implications
mean,
there.
I think the main thing was, we went through this process very long, obviously, and our last night we were there till 10 o'clock.
We started in October as well.
Yeah.
So it's been,
But as far as the rollout you were asking, the fact that we're phasing different grade levels in, and those unit members and teachers that are not having students return, for example, the first week, the distance learning will continue. So there will be a phased in, will be very focused time. They've already started to come back on Monday. Part of the agreement was to offer all day Monday, the 22nd, as a planning day for staff members that chose to come in. They many people took advantage of it. As far as the Wednesday, the next 3 Wednesdays are all dedicated to those folks that come in and report to the school site to planning. They'll set their students up on an asynchronous activity so they can plan and work in their classrooms. And throughout the year, while they've been very busy, absolutely, I'm not at all downplaying that. There has been increased planning time built into our agreement, our prior distance learning agreement, as well as our current agreement on hybrid learning. So I do feel that, we reached this in a good faith way. The negotiating team is representative of middle school, elementary counselors, really a really, broad group of folks that represent their unit. And the fact that it was a unanimous decision, albeit difficult to come to, we're pleased and comfortable with the rollout timeline that we have, and schools have been actively moving and communicating with families. So the timeline, like Mr. Vidal said, we'd have to go back and engage with our bargaining unit again. And that would, by definition, extend the launch of the reopening timeline.
and so, yeah, and we've heard from some folks here. I mean, there's a lot of folks who are planning on that April 12th and have changed childcare and made childcare decisions, job decisions. It has ramifications beyond those who submitted speaker cards. We didn't hear from the families who are in favor of this. We didn't hear from staff who are in favor of this. And it's not just there are ramifications that if should it change, and I certainly hope they do not, that will have implications and create more chaos than I think moving forward with it will. Administration does not have expectations that everything is perfect on day one and classrooms are set up and that bulletin boards are up and everything that individual teachers might have expectations for self on. That's certainly not the administration's expectation. The administration's expectation is that we spend time with students on that day. We welcome them into their school, into their classroom. We begin to connect on a human to human level, face to face, and we begin to create and build on those relationships established over virtual settings into in-person settings. And it's a much lower expectation than I think many individuals might have for themselves. And we certainly appreciate everything that our staff does. But as I've mentioned many times before, I have teachers in my family and we have this conversation every night. And expectations of educators have for themselves are so much greater than the expectations anybody else might have for them. And I think we just need to remember that, if we're safe and we can get a smile under a mask from a little one, and we can see it in their eyes, then that was a successful day.
Thank you, Superintendent Vidales. In no way was that question to slight any of the efforts of administration or AFT. It was more just, I wanted to address some of the comments that we received.
Of course.
Of the K2 teachers and how unprepared they felt they were. The other comment, and I know we're going to vote on the dates, and because so, I just wanted to stress to our families that are watching to please, and I encourage you all to please check your students to see, get them tested the week before they enter. If you're going somewhere on spring break, check the week after you guys come back. And there's a lot of places out there that do 5 and up. I know Bayshore with, I believe it's Curative, does 5 and up. They're very quick. Their responses are a lot more quicker now. I think the concentration is lower as far as people getting tested. So their response rate is really quick. I just took my daughter there and they got our test results in less than 24 hours. We got the appointment in less than 24 hours. So if we could also encourage our families through.
Yeah, we certainly will send that information out again. We've been sending it out regularly, but right before, spring break next week, we'll send it out again. I know both the Bayshore dates and the setup at Jefferson Union High School District offices, they both accept walk-up folks. If they get there on the first half of the appointment times and don't come in after 3 o'clock or whatever time they say, they accept, you don't need to make an appointment. So if you're willing to wait, you can do that. So, but as you mentioned, I think appointments are easier to get right now. So we will send that out again and encourage at least for folks to do that, consider to do that the week before their student comes back to school, just for their own peace of mind.
Great, thank you, Superintendent.
I'm going to be difficult, and I apologize. I have a question. Just rewinding, rethinking some of the comments. I had a hypothetical. If there wasn't a consensus tonight, if there wasn't a consensus and we had to go back to the drawing board to make the ask to the teachers union to revisit a different date, what would that timeline look like as far as securing a scheduled date to meet? And I'm just wondering, because we're about to vote, but I also in my mind want to know what that would look like if we didn't get the vote that some of us might be anticipating, and we would need to look at a timeline. I think it's important for us to understand what that looks like.
I mean, I can speak to it in terms of usually we've been only meeting for 2 hours, maybe once every 2 weeks. That's been the time because of people's scheduling. This last meeting, when we finally finished our agreement, we met from, I think it was like 4 till 10 o'clock. That was when we wrapped it up last week. So at the earliest, we'd have to set up a time to meet sometime next week. And now I'm starting to meet with employees about their requests for modification, different things that are happening. So I couldn't foresee a meeting anytime earlier than sometime next week, middle of next week. So it might push.
Yeah, and I think I would be difficult here too. I would highly discourage that as an option. I do think that it does express a poor faith in bargaining and negotiation. We did reach a tentative agreement. We did have authority and direction from the board to reach that agreement. Nobody's ever happy with any agreement that's made. And this does set up a dangerous precedent for future tentative agreements that are reached, and nobody will believe that they're really there until it happens. So I would highly discourage that. I think our teachers union, other classified union deserve to know that the board provides a direction to administration and the administration carries out that direction and it's something that can be counted on. So that's my perspective.
Thank you both. I agree. I just wanted to make sure that people are clear if we have provided direction, but just considering the comments that we've received and that there are questions in there with regards to these dates, I think it's important that people know that you will seriously be setting back, one, the credibility of the direction that we've asked for, but also set us back as far as really looking at a future date, because our next meeting wouldn't be until the 21st.
Correct. And I think just to put it out there, and we will communicate this, if there are families who are unsure or unready to send their students back that first week, hold them home, keep them home. This is not forcing anybody to show up on April 12th. It's just saying this is a day where we will start to receive students in kindergarten or first and second grade. We haven't discussed with administrations in schools, but probably, once the full rollout in elementary school happens, then we can, that third week, if there's kindergartners who want to feel ready to come back, then we will accept them. They will be assigned to a cohort A or a cohort B, and they will have their schedule and they will show up when they're ready. So we're completely fine with that. So what we do need to do, because we do want to submit this to the county health department for review, is to approve the amendments to the plan. And I think they were attached to your item. They were attached late. I can reshare them here. Let's see.
While you do that, Superintendent Vidales, I also wanted to add the comments that, again, we are one of the last in San Mateo County to.
We are second to last.
Right.
I think, second to last of the elementary school districts. Pacifica has announced a return date. They announced last Thursday. Ravenswood is getting ready to announce. They might announce tomorrow or the following day. And so, yes, we are among the last of the K-8 districts. Most of the unifieds have announced something. The high school districts are a little bit different, but I think Jefferson Union is still the one who hasn't made a definitive announcement yet, at least that I'm aware of. Sequoia has, and San Mateo Union has. So of the 23 school districts, we're like number 21, maybe.
Right. If there's no other discussion or clarification? We see the amendments that we need to approve on the screen. I'll take a motion if nothing else.
There is a fuller amendment, more formal sheet in your backup there, but this is a summary of what that sheet represents.
I will make the motion. I will make the motion. Based on the recommendation that we've received and the updates on the amendments, I make the motion to approve Appendix H addendum to phase and timelines return to in-person instruction.
I have a motion on the floor.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 That is interestingly unanimous. And I wanted to say with my yes vote that, again, encourage our families to get their students tested before we go back as well. And yes, let's hope for all of the best with this. Thank you to the administrators for helping guide the district with this. Then now we will move on to 8E, and that is the approval of the tentative agreement with AFT number 3267 on MOU for return to in-person instruction. The administration recommends approval of the tentative agreement subject to and pending ratification by the unit. The agreement outlines provisions for creating a safe working/learning environment, staff and student return dates, hybrid instructional schedules, and other items related to a safe return to in-person instruction after more than 1 year of distance learning.
Okay, so I know we spoke to some of this in our last part of our discussion. But again, I just want to reiterate that this agreement is a result of your ongoing guidance and working with our partners in AFT 3267 and my colleagues on the negotiating team in a good faith effort to get students back in a safe way to return beginning April 12th. The mitigation measures included in the agreement are in line with what's recommended by the Pandemic Recovery Framework. Our classrooms and other ventilation and other safety measures are in place. The timeline, like we discussed, is something that we agreed to collectively through negotiations. And, you know, I think like Superintendent Vidal said, it represents the cohesiveness we had with our unit members to move forward along this timeline. There are things that are going to roll out as we move along, and you know, I know teachers are already starting to prepare for this, and the excitement is in the air. But I highly recommend and request that the board move forward and approve the tentative agreement that we have negotiated with our unit members. And if there's any questions that I can answer, I'm happy to address those. Some of them, of course, have already been asked.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Mr. Valenti.
Mhm.
I don't know if this has anything, if it slightly has something to do with this. I'm not sure if it's exactly the right place to ask, but we are also encouraging testing for our teachers who didn't decide to take the vaccination as well, right? Through some communication.
Yeah, the return to learning plan as it stands now, all of our staff members who are on our school sites are required to have COVID testing on a regular basis. As teachers are coming back onto school sites that haven't stepped foot on the school site since last March, they will be asked to test at the next opportunity, either this week and many schools next week, if not the first week back. I think while I am always disappointed and sad when we do receive a positive test, I'm always pleased that we have so few. And I think our employees have really taken good care of themselves and their interactions. And I think everyone understands the importance of it, especially those who have not received the vaccine. Their role in keeping the virus out of the school. Those who have received the vaccine have taken the vaccine because they don't want to bring the vaccine into the virus into the school. So everyone understands this is a community effort, and we just want everyone to play their role well.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez.
I had a question with regards to the cleaning and the disinfection, and I only reference because I know that in our Head Start classes, we don't have custodial staff. So we actually, the expectation is that our teachers in the class are doing that constantly throughout the day. Is that the same expectation? Because I'm reading that it says the district, so I'm just assuming, I'm guessing that it will be the teacher's responsibility, and what kind of additional custodial support will they have?
Early childhood is very different from K-12, as you know. You disinfect every day, even when there's no pandemic. all the learning tools are disinfected on a daily basis, and tables are disinfected on a daily basis. That in the K-12 arena, cleaning happens on a regular and daily basis and throughout the day. And so now we're adding the disinfectant component to it. Custodians will be disinfecting all of the learning spaces and office spaces every day. When students and staff are gone, they'll be using the fogger mister that's electrostatic and will cling to surfaces and will disinfect it where it lands. So that's an added feature that we haven't had before. And then throughout the day, custodians will be present throughout the school, cleaning on a regular basis throughout the day where they can.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? If none, I'll take a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the tentative agreement as presented.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Great, that was unanimous. Thank you all for your efforts with this. I know this was a big ordeal for all of us to go through, of course.
And we enter into this next phase, with trepidation as much as everybody else. And I am grateful for all of the other school districts that have gone before us in this, and all of the learning that we've benefited from. There haven't been great failures, but there've been little stumbles. And so we are aware of what those stumbles might be. I'm sure we will have our own stumbles because every community is different, but we enter into this with good faith and good heart. And we do have the strong assurance from the San Mateo County Health Department that they have no qualms in closing any of our schools down in the county if they believe that it's a danger to the public health. And that's something that has been asked of them repeatedly. It's like, are you going to close us down if you think that we're contributing to something? And they're like, we have no qualms. We'll definitely shut you down if we believe that the schools are sources of outbreaks. And so that's good for us to know. We're not epidemiologists. I can say that word now. Epidemiologists, we are not. We don't study disease and we don't study transmission. And it's helpful to know that those who do have an eye out for our schools.
And thank you all for your approval tonight, and again, to the partners and to Bernie for his leadership in this process. It's certainly not what I expected to be doing this year. Thank you.
Moving on to 11A, certified retirement 2020-2021. The administration recommends approval of the retirement request from Stephanie Bernstein, third grade teacher at MP Brown, effective June 12, 2021. Ms. Bernstein has been employed by the district since December 5th, 2005. The administration also requests an appropriate resolution be prepared commending Ms. Bernstein for her years of service with the district.
Yeah. I want to, again, just like all our colleagues that are deciding to make their retirements this year, thank you for your years of service. I'm sure this has, again, given the year it has been, will be one for the books. And Ms. Bernstein's been an excellent colleague, and I wish her the best in her next phase.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Valenti. I would like to make the motion, if there's no discussion, to do as recommended by the administration for the approval of the retirement request from Stephanie Bernstein, third grade teacher at MP Brown, effective June 12th, 2021. And I would like to extend my deepest gratitude to you, Ms. Bernstein, for your years of service. And go MP Brown. That's my family school. So I'm just down the street, and I appreciate all of your contributions to our school community there and to all of our students who have had the opportunity to call you their educator. Thank you so much for your service.
I second that motion.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Great, that was unanimous. And I just want to say thank you as well to Ms. Bernstein. My daughter also went to MP Brown, but we just missed you. So she entered MP Brown at fourth grade. Moving on to item 13, persons wishing to address the board. This portion of the agenda is available for individuals to comment on or address the board on any issue that is under the board's jurisdiction and not on the agenda. Are there any speaker cards?
Mr. Ku, do we have any other comments left? I think
Not
we
that
may
I'm-
have gotten them all. Yeah, they
Yeah, I
they
think-
were almost the 8.
Yeah, all the comments related to 13 was related to the reopening.
Okay, great, thank you. So no comments.
Great, no comments. Okay, well then we'll move on to number 14, governance team member comments, reports, and board meeting reflection. I will go with the same cadence. Trustee Jordan, would you like to go first?
Yes, I just wanted to thank everyone who did make their comments on the school reopening today. I know this has been, as we've said throughout this meeting, such a tough conversation. It's really been hard to make some of these decisions. I don't think any of us thought that we would be in this position last year or this year. And so, you know, taking the time to make those comments and making your voice heard, definitely important. Me being a parent with 2 children in 2 different levels of our school district, I completely understand and understand your sentiments, not just from a parent level, but also from an educator level. And I appreciate you bearing with us and knowing that we all truly as a community are in this together, and hopefully we'll continue to stay safe throughout this ordeal. And then obviously we're not going to be meeting again until after spring break. So I just wanted to say everyone have a safe spring break. I echo President Manio's comments earlier about going and getting tested before and after you return. Again, we want our community to remain in the low numbers because we hope that at some point in the coming months that we could truly be back to some sort of normalcy, not only for the well-being of our children, administrators, and staff, but also for that of our entire community. So thank you, and have a great evening.
Thank you, Trustee Jordan. Trustee Koo?
I want to echo the comments of Trustee Jordan. I know that tonight's decision wasn't taken easily. I do appreciate all the comments for and against sort of school reopening, because I understand that it's a tough decision. It's not like something that we didn't think about tough and hard, especially when it comes to reopening our schools, to make sure that we can actually support those students who have been succeeding and thriving in distance learning, as well as those who haven't. So yeah, I'm hopeful that school reopening works very well, or at least does in the best interest of everybody who will be able to return to in-person learning, just because I know that 2020, 2021 has been a tough year for a lot of people. So hopeful that that goes well for everybody. Also, similarly, COVID testing, I just urge everybody to just get COVID tested, whether or not you have a vaccine or not, because there's still a chance you can get COVID. I went this afternoon. I went to Curative's website 10 minutes before my appointment, made the appointment, went there. There are hundreds of appointment openings available right now because there's so few people actually getting tested. So I urge you guys all to get tested. It takes a matter of 2 minutes to register online, 2 minutes to your test. You can easily get done in and out in 10 minutes or less. So yeah, and then we wish everybody a happy spring break and look forward to seeing you all in April.
Thank you, Trustee Koo. Trustee Laina Anawai?
I mean, it's not overkill when we keep pushing the testing and the vaccine. It's not. It really isn't. Because a lot of times we're starting to, like right now, people are starting to relax their standards when they've been vaccinated or they're around people who they know have been vaccinated. But we still have to be vigilant. We still have to be. And I am tired of coming on here saying that I've just buried another person in my family, and I have. Just 2 weeks ago, and this weekend, upcoming weekend in Daly City, we've lost another person to COVID. You know, so it's very important that if you are open to the vaccine, I encourage you to get the vaccine because it is now accessible right here in our city. And to be tested, you know, just as has been shared by my fellow colleagues here on the board, it's all about awareness, but it's also your responsibility to keep yourself safe, your family safe, and your neighbors safe. I really think that everyone has that responsibility. I have a homebound senior who lives to the left of me who still cannot access the vaccine because we don't have services that can allow for that to happen. And so it's my role to make sure that when I'm coming out of my garage, that if I'm not feeling well, I'm not going to go by her. I'm not going to impact her in that way. And that's the expectation when we roll out our plan for you to come back to school. It requires that we all do our part. If you in your home and your household have been exposed in any way, or if you have any cold or flu-like symptoms, then it's your part to say, we're going to keep our child home. We're going to notify our teacher and our school site. It requires everyone. We are just making a decision that's been given to us to make tonight to facilitate a plan that we hope will allow us to open like our fellow schools in the community. It's not about the money. It's never been about the money. However, we all know that money makes things happen. Money helps us to keep the lights on. Money's also ensure that we can pay the educators and also keep our children safe. So it comes full circle. And I just have to continue to press that everyone is an important link in this process. Everyone. So it's going to require all of us as a collective to make this plan successful. And if something falters, we will be back at the table as a board, as a district, to make decisions that need to be made when they need to be made. But tonight, I am happy, as difficult as it was for some of us, you know, for all of us. You saw there was a hesitance because we want to be sure we're making the best and safest decision. So we don't take it lightly. I know we don't. So I want to encourage everyone, when you get out there and celebrate, those of you that do celebrate Passover, Easter, that you continue to do it safely. If you travel out of California, out of our state, don't forget, you got to quarantine yourselves. So if we all take heed to those protective measures, we can really do this well and do it successfully. So I wish you all the best, and stay with me. Team Waste No Minutes. We got to stay team Waste No Minutes. So happy holidays, happy spring break, and I look forward to convening and coming back. And I appreciate every single heart, hand, and soul that is invested in this work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Trustee Laina Anawai. I definitely share those same sentiments. I'm so very sorry to hear of another loss in your family. I know how difficult that is, and we've all had to deal with the mayhem of this pandemic and the previous administration's response to it, and why we are in this place that we're in now. A lot of us have struggled just to survive, and we had to find new and innovative ways to adapt. So I want to give a really big shout out to every single one of you. As Trustee Laina Anawai said, everybody is important. All of our administrators, staff, teachers, our students, and our families that have been riding with this district and meeting these unexpected challenges with boldness and strength and courage. And I also want to encourage everybody to, let's please continue to be responsible, continue to be safe, especially over this spring break. Happy holidays, and we will see you in April. Thank you so much. With that said, if there's nothing else, then I will adjourn this meeting at 8:31 p.m.
Thank you very much, everybody. Good night.
Thank you. Good night.
Right.
Thanks, Will. We'll see you.